Hello and welcome everyone to a bit of a different stream, something I don't do too very much often. But today we're going to be having a look at the Umbral Covenant, and I am joined today by one of the people who is responsible for bringing this really rather intriguing-looking mission tree to life. So hello, Liv, and thanks for joining me.
Hello, I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much for hosting me and letting me shamelessly promote my own work on your stream.
My pleasure. So tell everyone exactly what it is you do on Anbennar and introduce yourself if you like.
So the answer is far too much, according to most people who know me. But I am co-lead for Sahol and also co-lead for Insia since the start of this year. I also make way too many mission trees. So if you've played Istrelor, Vaingheim, Umbral Covenant, Deathbringing Cobra, Naleni, Hyssos Dumark, IRLN, soon to be Harpyland, those are all me. And not to toot my own horn too much, but I get fairly good reviews on my mission trees as well, so I think people like my stuff. And besides that, I've designed a load of content. So if you've played the Ashana recently with the Blood Curse, that's me. If you're looking forward to the Plain Touched Estate, that's partly me. If you've played the Hunt, that's me. Roosts, that's me. I could go on, but I'll stop bragging now.
No,
Basically, I make a load of stuff.
I have played a little bit of Vengheim, and I thoroughly enjoy the vibes and everything that I played so far. So maybe that's something we can talk about at another time. But today we're here to talk about the Umbral Covenant, and from what I understand, it is anybody can form them, but there's one tag in particular that's kind of like, I guess, the prequel to the mission tree, if that's a good way to put it. So, would you like to have a talk about what it is that the Umbral Covenant is, what they do, and why should people play this one?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. Umbral Covenant in general, like from a gameplay perspective, what it is a region agnostic, Sahel formable for the Shadow Pact religion. So what that means is basically anywhere in Sahel, if you convert to the Shadow Pact religion, you can form Umbral Covenant. It kind of came about because, if we go back to the roots of the tag's existence, it came about because we have these events called the Hag Bargain events. For anybody who's not familiar, Yezelmora, which we can see on the left of the screen there, that's a big scary hag tag, and we've got this lore about this coven of hags, and they're super powerful, and they do all this like evil stuff in lore. But in game, there's events where basically they offer you bargains, and you can accept the bargain, and you get a really big bonus. But they come knocking, like 10 years later, and they basically say, "Hey, fuck you." Or convert to Shadow Pact. And you can go, okay, well, I guess I'm just fucked now and take the penalties. Or you can convert. The thing is that we realized that having that option is very cool, but nobody would ever do it because, if you're playing a mission tree, well, converting to Shadow Pact probably bricks your mission tree, right? So what we wanted to offer was we wanted to offer an alternative for those players, a reason to press this button and go Shadow Pact. And that's where Scamp, who's the other Sahol lead, had this idea for this Umbral Covenant tag. And now I must confess at this point that I did not believe in this tag when he first proposed it. I was like, how on earth is anybody meant to design this? Like, region agnostic? How are you going to make a mission tree for this, Scamp? You're an idiot. And then he came back like 2 days later with the NIs, and I was like, oh my god, this is the best tag anybody has ever made. Scamp, you're a fucking genius. Like, if you want to read them, they're just so cool. Two of them aren't what he originally wrote, but they're pretty much still the same thing. And it's just, I I really love girl bosses in Anbennar. I'm gonna say it. Girl
There's a
bosses are the
few.
best.
There are a few that I'm particularly a fan of. Though I my pronunciation of one of them differs from Anbanar's quite substantially. I call her Celadora of Bursar Tenches. She is my favorite
I
of the
think it's
girl bosses.
Calidora. I think that's what I would say.
I don't agree.
Bulwar is technically under my remit, so I think I get to decide how it's
That's
pronounced.
unfortunate. Her and Verena Esker, I am a big fan of for sure. So who is the girl boss of the Umbral Covenant, though?
Well, it is the Vile one. So if you swap over to your ruler tab, we'll be able to see her, hopefully. And we can see that she is a 616 Shadow Plane Touch powerful mage. And basically, she's like this protege of the Hags. So this is where Deathbringing Cobra kind of enters the picture, to go back to the starting tag that we had. Deathbringing Cobra, she is the daughter of the starting ruler of Deathbringing Cobra. And basically, that starting ruler, Coende, traded her to the hags for power. And that's like a whole thing. I'm not going to explain the story there. Go play the tag. But the Vile One then grows up under the tutelage of the hags in the swamp, and she learns to harness her, immense magical power, her shadow plane touch nature, and she becomes a pawn of the hags. And eventually, in canon, she goes and takes over Bois de Kinchi, which is basically the region that you're in right now. Like that's the De Kinchi region, Dan Luini. But that's the Umbral Covenant. Like, she is the Umbral Covenant. When you sign the Umbral Covenant, what you are agreeing to is that she is going to become your ruler. And that's kind of the premise of the tag, that this is a tag that is quintessentially one person. She is the tag, and that's the identity of the tag. Because obviously, if we go back to the fact it's region agnostic, it's very hard to have an identity that's like based on a region or a culture when it could be anybody. Because obviously here we formed it as Deathbringing Koga, so we're Dikinchi culture, but you could form this as Ryaz, you could form this as Naleni, you could form this as Nolakaz, you could be a Nol, a Harpy, a Lizard, a human, whatever, and it would still be the same tag. So it has to work for all of those, and that's why she is the tag. If you swap to the missions tab and you just like hover over some of the missions, you'll see that all of the mission log, it's all written like as her. Like, she is saying it, she is the missions. So obviously, sometimes with missions it's kind of written in the voice of the country. It's written in her voice. She is the voice of the country.
Okay, this is a lot more cool than I had really anticipated when I started playing Deathbringing Cobra. So for a bit of context, this is a game that I've played on my own time. I managed as the Deathbringing Cobra to form the Umbral Covenant, and that's where I ended it. I plan to continue because everything I've seen so far looks really cool. But I hadn't actually read the missions up until this point, and I really do quite like the vibes that we're seeing here, for sure. So the Vile One is she grows up in the swamp. She is a scion of the hags. You said she is their pawn. How does that kind of relationship play out between Yezalmora and Umbral Covenant? Because I noticed when I formed them, it also made me an ally of the Yezalmora. Is that an alliance that has to stick around?
Yes, it is. So there's obviously a big arc here, right? The alliance perhaps does not stay around the whole game, but to begin with, very much you are working kind of side by side with them. If anybody who's read the NIs will know this, but obviously the Var one has her own agenda, but she is in service to the hags, at least to begin with, earnestly. And this is a kind of a plot that's explored through the missions and the events. I have to give a huge shout out to Alphanim here. He did all the writing for this tree, like the dozens of events, all the missions, and it's all fantastic. I've got more to talk about there later, but I'll continue answering the question. If you look on the top left, you'll see there's some missions about allying the hags and like being friends with them and shit like that. But if you go down the tree, way down, um, at the very bottom, there may be a break with them. And the alliance is actually kind of enforced. So if you remember one of those event IDs I sent you earlier, you might just want
Yes.
to fire that in the console and have a little look at what happens if you attack Yezel before the time is right.
Yes. I have had a little bit of a let's say a teaser about what happens here in a multiplayer that I've been playing as. I wasn't the Umbral Covenant in this. I was playing as Phoenix Empire, but I had seen some things may have happened that needed save editing to fix. Mostly because the Umbral Covenant player wanted to keep playing. But yes, this is when you attack Yazalmora, and we
Yes, yeah.
invite the wrath of the Coven whole and entire. What happens to Yazalmora when this happens?
Well,
Well,
they get this buff called by 3, and they also spawn a ridiculous number of units. So you might want to tag into them and just have a little look at what's actually happened to them.
so they're by 3, get some reinforced speed, recover morale speed, and then they take 66% less fire, shock, and morale damage, and they deal 30% more morale damage. Yeah, this
Yeah, so
seems
this
something
buff
that,
is like, if
yeah,
you trigger this, it's a game over. It's very much meant to be a game over. I will say I've seen late game players actually beating them with this, and I am just incredibly impressed how they managed to do that because like those troops should just take 0 damage, and apparently players win. Fair enough. Um, Slight little cameo here. If you actually look on the left, you can see the new gov power for Yazamora as well, like the gov bar. We don't have time to talk about that right now, but there is stuff coming for Yazamora very, very soon in the future.
I'm
It's a very
excited
cool
about
mechanic
that.
that they have.
So this is something you don't want to do. Don't want to break with them too early. You got to wait until later on in the game until you are overwhelmingly strong. How strong does Umbral Covenant get if you're playing them properly? I noticed when I was playing them, I have some special units called Shadow Warriors. These, I guess, go some way into the power of the tag, but how good will they get?
Very good. So there's not actually that many direct Shadow Warrior buffs in the tree. For anybody who's not familiar with Shadow Warriors, they're a new special unit that we've added for Shadow Pack tags. I believe they're also coming to like the Death Cult guys and Elantir as well. I think LVT is working on that. It's very cool. But they're just very good baseline. They do have double manpower cost, so the like what you're looking at there is perhaps slightly misleading, but their stats are just egregious. The thing is that a lot of Umbral Covenant's power, where it's coming from, is its special gov mechanic. I don't know, I think you unlocked it already, but if you
Yes.
pop into your gov tab, we can have a little look at the Shadow Empowerment System. So recently we had a shake up in the UI team, and custom UI is on the table for the right tags in the right proportion, and Umbral Covenant is probably the first tag to use it in a way like this. So we have a fully bespoke custom UI panel here, and it's a fully tag unique system that we get to play with. I had a nightmare of a time trying to get this through all the review stages because every single one of my reviewers was like, Liv, this seems a little bit over budget. And I had to argue for it. So you're welcome, everybody. But basically, we have this like almost sort of like a grid of different aspects and powers that we can select, and they're all different effects and stuff like that. But we throughout the mission tree kind of charged up our shadow power. If you see that little number down at the bottom next to the Zerg looking symbol, that 5 there, that's our available shadow empowerment, or shadow essence, sorry. And we get that when we conquer. So we have this really like amplified snowball effect, if you like. Because obviously, when you conquer, you get stronger in E4, right? That's the
Yeah.
game.
Naturally.
But with this, every time you conquer, you get more rifts, you get stronger empowerments. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going. In terms of like the actual tag strength, one of the only complaints that I've been getting from testers is that basically once you get to the mid game, the tree is too easy. There's no challenge. So there's challenge at the end. There's some scripted wars. I won't spoil them necessarily. But yes, you may find the mid game is very easy as you roll across the continent.
So what kind of buffs can we get from this the Umbral Covenant then? This absolutely gorgeous UI that I'm in awe that actually fits into EU4. But what kind of things can we do with this demonic pentagram looking thing?
So there's like a really really big variety of effects. The lower tier ones. So right now we've got aspects. We've got access to the spirits, shadows, and dusk empowerments. You can see that spirits is like the lowest tier, shadows is the middle, dusk is the third highest. And in there we've got stuff like gaining stab on war deck. We've got early access to imperialism. We've got buffs to magic. So obviously, for anybody who's not been playing on the GitLab, Magic Rework is also coming this patch, and Umbral Covenant is a massive user of the magic system. So we've got custom spell alterations, we've got things like custom projects, all that good stuff. So one of the empowerments, for example, what lurks in the dark, that makes mass charm not count as war magic. So
Ooh,
you could cast mass charm and you could cast, flaming munitions or whatever else you want. So you can stack 2 war magics basically.
nice.
The later empowerments as well get pretty crazy. So there's one that just like flat out gives you 20% mana regen, 10% core creation cost, minus aggressive expansion, and then the very highest tier has like a sort of kiss curse balance to it. So Abyss is the highest tier. Obviously you can't see it in your save, but you can get like minus fire damage received at the cost of national unrest. You can get loads and loads of gov cap at the cost of minimum autonomy. And stuff like that. You also get the ability to use more than one power at once later in the tree. So
Okay.
right now, if you were to select one, you'd only be able to select one, but later on you can do two at once, and that's a massive expansion to your power. A lot of the power from the mission tree comes through this system. So a lot of the mission rewards are unlocks this empowerment, unlocks that empowerment. But you've also obviously got your regular kind of rewards like gov reforms and country modifiers, etc.
Right. Yeah, this really does look cool. How much did you have to, convince people that, Umbral Covenant was worth the budget for this? How much pushback was there, and have you convinced the doubters with it?
Well, I don't want to mischaracterize the reviewers, to be clear. Like they were very reasonably like doubting, because a system like this is, like use the word budget there. It is very, very high in budget, and this isn't something we could approve for just any tag. One of the reasons, or rather, the reason that I used, I think was particularly convincing for people like the systems lead who reviewed this, was that, again, going back to the fact that Umbral Covenant is region agnostic. Normally what we do with mission trees in Anbennar, right, is we tie them into regional mechanics. So if you're playing Nolotept, obviously using stewardship, that's your regional mechanic, you get your mission tree to interact with that. Problem with Umbral Covenant is that you can't guarantee that you're going to be able to interact with a particular regional mechanic, because you could just be on the other side of Sahal, so you can't really design around that in any way, which is why, in my opinion, it warrants a very intricate custom system, because it kind of needs it to be as interesting as other tags, if that makes sense. Obviously, the UI was it was kind of in the front line of the new age of UI, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
This was proposed at the end of last update, I think, and then kind of worked on across the beginning of this update. So it came into like the age of new UI. I had two different people help me with the UI in this. Shout out to Wolfthorn and Yathel for actually doing the coding and the design. Shout out to Adam for actually doing the art, because obviously the art budget's massive as well. Like there's I don't know how many individual assets there are that actually make up that thing, but I think it's like something like 30, because obviously each little button is its own icon, and it's just crazy. But yeah, it went through. I will leak a little bit here that when Armin, who was systems lead at the time, first saw the proposal, he was like, "Yeah, no, that's not happening." And then I VC'd with him for about an hour and convinced him. And then afterwards, he was like, "Okay, it's approved, but Sahel doesn't get anything else like this ever again."
Well, it seems worth it to me. You were saying there as well, about it being region agnostic. You mentioned how you can form it as anyone, Mohakar or Ryaz, however you go from there. What
Mhm.
kind of like challenges do you have in doing the mission tree then? Like, obviously, it's all about the character of the Vile One, but your mission trees generally, when you're looking at Anbennar and EU4 vanilla as well, a lot of
Mhm.
your requirements are, I want you to go conquer this, and then I will give you this reward. But we've got a full mission tree here that clearly can't have anything like that. So, what? How does that work? How did you manage that?
So we kind of took a leaf out of the commands book. If you have a look at the top there in your mission tree, you'll see you've got this floating mission there, which has a region name on it, which is one of the regions that borders you at the moment. So basically, every mission that you see in the actual like main tree of the tree doesn't require you to conquer any specific region, apart from the missions at the very, very bottom, where it's kind of assumed that got most of the continent anyway, so you can get them.
Yeah.
Everything above that is basically asking you for like certain types of provinces. Like some of them want you to conquer lizard spires, for example.
Okay.
Others want you to conquer like specific great projects, but it's like a choice of 3 different great projects. And what I did was I picked one like up on the top, one over on the left, one over on the right. So in terms of the overall structure of the tree, it's designed so that you can fulfill it in any area. Obviously, it'll be a bit harder in certain areas than others, but that's fine because it sort of balances out. In terms of the general conquest mission, because, if you make a mission tree, you've got to have conquest missions. Like I said, we took a leaf out of the commands book and we did a sort of mini war room. A lot of people in content don't like the way that the commands war room works because they have very kind of like, I don't want to be too negative about it, but like superfluous missions. If you've ever played the command, you'll know you like when you pick a campaign target, one of the missions might be like siege this one province and you get a small buff.
Yeah.
So what we have here is we just have a mission that is just conquer the region and then build a rift. And then when you complete that mission, what it does is it fires an event. It gives you nice lore about the hag, like doing stuff in the region. If you want to know more lore about the hags, by the way, this is the mission tree to play. Alto has cooked so much lore about the hags and put it in here. I think even more than Yezel Mora, you're going to get hag lore in this tree, which is, saying something. But yeah, sorry. So the conquest missions, they feed into the loop of getting more power for your shadow empowerments, and that's how the tree is designed to accommodate for the region issue. Conquest missions are floating, you pick them dynamically when you finish one. The rest of the structure of the tree is just designed to be any kind of area can fulfill it with greater or lesser difficulty.
One thing you mentioned there that we haven't really spoken about, though, is you said after you've done your mission, you open a rift. What is a rift, and how do you interact with that? How do you build a rift?
So the shadow rifts are kind of how the Val one is empowering herself. So if we're talking about from a lore perspective, basically what you're doing throughout your journey here is that you are kind of making bleeds into the shadow plane across Sahel, and that is empowering yourself and the hags, but mainly you. So in terms of what's actually happening when you open the rifts, well, we're kind of leaving that a little bit up to interpretation. But what happens sort of mechanically is obviously you gain power. And what happens in game is that you kind of get these like visions of the past, if you like. So as the Val one is opening these rifts, she's looking through them, and what she sees is like stuff related to the hags happening in that region, and that's like it's basically a mechanism for delivering loads and loads of lore. Like for example, if you refire that event that I sent you earlier, the conquest one, the 1003 or whatever it was,
Yeah.
that event is the conquest one for the region we're in. So you can see like the rift opens, and I can see, and basically what she's showing is her granny Ilfa, who's one of the hags, doing stuff. And this is actually about her. So this event is actually like when she was passed over as a baby, because obviously, like I said, she was given away as a baby to the hags, and she grew up there. And that whole like story of her life is obviously told throughout the tree as well.
As a big fan of Auntie Ethel from Baldur's Gate 3, I can definitely appreciate the whole, giving a baby to the hag and how that would actually play out. I choose to believe that that's exactly how it would work. But no, that's awesome. You said as well about designing some custom things for the magic system. Now, I have played quite a bit with this update through the Bitbucket, and so I've played quite a bit with this magic system and really enjoyed it. And there is something exciting to me about seeing new, unique things added to this system that I actually already love to bits. So what are we getting that is custom for the Umbral Covenant in the Magic system?
So Umbral Covenant, it's mostly spell alterations, as well as like mana regen, discounts, etc. When we were making Umbral Covenant, we hadn't yet decided what was happening with custom spells and custom schools. Custom schools not a thing, but magical traditions are a thing. So you're not going to get a custom spell. You don't currently have access to a magical tradition unless you play a tag that starts with on and then swaps in. So if you play a harpy, for example, you can keep the harpy spells. But as I was saying, it's mostly spell alterations. So one of the biggest parts of like encouraged customization in the magic system is you you can just tweak the effects of spells. You can give discounts for spells, things like that.
Yeah.
So I already mentioned before that one of the tweaks is that Mass Charm no longer counts as war magic, and that's like a very simple thing, but it's actually a very cool buff because it means you can stack it with other war magics, which you wouldn't normally be able to. And then the other thing is that just you get a gross amount of mana regen. There's a project later in the tree called Secrets of the Spires. So that's a custom project as well. You might be able to see it if you go to the Advancements tab in the magic pane. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it or not.
Unique
But if you swap
projects
to Unique
there.
Projects, yeah. No, okay, so
Unfortunately
you
not.
can't see it quite yet. If you load one of my late game saves, you'll be able to see it.
All right, let's have a look and see if we can find it there.
But yeah, so unique projects are like the other very, very encouraged custom content for the magic system. They are glorified event chains in a way, but they're very interesting because they're you can interact with the progress speed of them as part of the system, if that makes sense. So you've got these 3 custom projects that you can do, and 2 of them are very, very lore impactful and required for the progression of the mission tree. But the other one is also just fun. You get the ability from it to blow up lizard spires. So anybody who's familiar with Sarhal, the lizard folk have these spires all over Sarhal, and they're called the Zatsaya, I believe, and they're portals to space. And basically, the project is that the Val1 and her friends are trying to figure it out, and they're trying to figure out how these things work. And in the process, they just end up blowing them up. And they find out that blowing them up makes loads of mana, so they just keep blowing them up. And you get access to a special province button. You can click on a spire, blow it up, and it gives you loads of mana.
Unfortunately, I couldn't load the save without the game crashing, so I'm not sure if we're going to be able to
Oh,
see
damn.
that. But I'm sure that's just a case of multiple versions of the Bitbucket at the same time, and unfortunately, we can't see that. But that does sound really cool. I've played Catalushaya and really enjoyed, unlocking the spires. So I'm sure I'll enjoy blowing them up as well. It does make sense, getting some magic out of that. So with Umbral Covenant, you're not the only one working on it. So how do you work as a team in and bringing this mission tree to life? Like, was there some sort of like partition of responsibilities, and who else was working on it, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so for this one, there was like quite a clear division of roles almost. So I'd say the person I collaborated with it most is Alto, who, like I said before, he's the writer. And basically, when we were designing the tree, midway through designing the tree on my end, because I started it on my own, I was just kind of talking about it in on the Discord, and he just kind of messaged me like, "Hey, can I write for this?" And I was like, yes, you can write for this. And then we started talking about the narrative together. So I showed him the mission tree, and I talked about like what the overall idea was, what the concept for the tag is, and then he gave me his ideas, and together we worked on the overall structure of the tree as a result. So I was still the one like doing the design of the missions and things like that and the system, and he was obviously the one doing all the writing, but together we were like weaving them together and crafting the narrative. There's obviously other people involved as well. So like I mentioned before, we had different people doing the UI. Now their work was more kind of like compartmentalized, if you like. Like that was very sort of Walthorn did the design of the tab, and then Yothal actually did the implementation. But that was really helpful because I hate UI code. So it's just like outsourcing it, having somebody else do it. It's really good. I just find it good to collaborate because, while I'm sure I've got loads of great ideas on my own, working with other people in a small group really helps refine those kind of ideas. You don't want to go too big because you risk, design by committee, dev by poll, the evil thing that I hate. But like somebody else's ideas in your ideas, it just makes everything better.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Like that, obviously, the collaborative work is pretty clear throughout Anbennar, so it's good to see it working so well. I have been given a run file from one of your colleagues, Magnive, so I'm going to run that, and we'll see if we can get that event to fire to see
Oh,
the
fantastic.
Spire secrets. So let me just pop that in my run files. So if I run that.txt, we have enable UC Spire explosion texts, and now we can build a great project here. The Shattered Zetsaria.
Yes. So that's the like the modified monument that you'll get when you complete the project. So it's literally the spire but blown up. If you look at it, you'll see the modifiers are quite funny because it's an inversion of the normal Zerat spire. You can see you get minus 333% tax income locally, which I thought was very funny. But also, you get mana regen. Now
Yeah.
the big thing is, if you look at the province buttons, you can see that little blown up spire. So anywhere that has an intact spire, if you click on that,
Oh,
sorry,
here.
up above the great
Up
projects,
above, yeah.
yeah. So
Destroys the
that
spire in
button,
exchange for an influx of mana.
yeah. So if you click on
300
it,
mana is quite a lot.
oh, it's loads of mana. It's like a legendary spell and a half. If you're using the discounts as well from Umbral Covenant, it's like 2 legendary spells. So you get to do that back to back. Now, obviously, you're limited by the amount of great projects you have because
Yeah.
once you've blown them all up, they're gone. But it's just a very, very like fun, neat way to get mana. Like I said before, the mana gen you get in this tag, it's obscene. You cast so many spells because you're an immortal, powerful mage. And I should note as well, for anybody wondering, you literally cannot die as the Val one.
Oh,
If you
yes.
want to open the console, Lambert, and just type kill, you'll see that she is immune even to the power of the console.
I absolutely love that. I love that that's a thing. The first time I saw that was for Caradir in Varamha when he becomes a god, and now seeing it again as the Umbral Covenant, it does bring that kind of sense of this character that I'm playing, and obviously the mission tree is all about her specifically, is so powerful. Even cheating cannot kill them.
Yeah, I love it. It's amazing.
It does feel really good. It does feel amazing to play it that way.
It's very funny as well because we get a lot of questions on the Discord because one of the religion's mechanics, so you get like random portents and you do a festival and that affects like you get an effect based on what portent you have. One of the random portents is called time or something like that, and what it does is it makes your ruler immortal for 33 years and then kills them at the end of it. And we get loads and loads of people on the Discord going, am I screwed? Is this going to kill my ruler? And then you get to say, no, she can't die. She can't die at all. It's
That's
a very cool religion, by the way, Shadow Pact. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, you don't get to actually choose which ones you go for. You have to choose random portents, and if you get one that say you don't really like, then you can re-roll it. Can you? Or
Yes, yeah.
right?
So baseline, you get 1 reroll per portent. So like you can select a portent. If you don't like it, you can reroll it with the reroll button. But then you're stuck with whatever you get.
Okay.
So the also obviously the religion gets buffed through the mission tree as well. So the one of the effects later on in the mission tree is whenever you do a festival, you get your next spell like 50% discount. So you can like set up, do a ritual, cast a legendary spell for like nothing. It's great.
That sounds good. So, what kind of other benefits are we getting from the religion then? Um, as you go along, you're upgrading it. I've seen some things like that have a bit of a double-edged sword on it. So, for example, I saw one that was, I think, doing extra morale damage, but you weren't allowed to slacken for 20 years. And that came into play in a multiplayer I recently played in. What are
Yes.
there more things that are like that double-edged sword of I get a bonus, but I've also got a drawback? Because that kind of
Yes,
thing always really
that's the
interests me.
whole religion. Yeah.
Okay.
The buffs from the mission tree are more like straight positive effects, but the overall design of not the mission tree, the religion is that that kiss curse dynamic where you get a positive effect and a negative effect from every portent on the ritual. Because obviously the whole theming of Shadow Pact is that you are dealing with dark entities, right? And they might
Yeah.
give you power, but it's going to come at a price, and that's the price. The buffs from the mission tree are intended to help mollify some of the problems that you get from the other mechanics that you're dealing with. So if we go all the way back to Shadow Warriors, like we are talking about before, one of the things about Shadow Warriors is that to get more of them, you have to incur a lot of corruption, because you have to put down this holy order for them, and you have to gain corruption every time you recruit them. So one of the buffs from the mission tree is that it makes your festivals reduce corruption. I've seen loads and loads of screenshots from people playing Umbral Covenant, and in the early game they're at like 20 corruption, and they're like, "Live, please help, my country is exploding."
Yeah. I mean, high corruption can be a benefit, right? You can is it something unrest reduction if you've got high corruption? That makes sense. But yeah,
The best unrest reduction is killing the rebels.
that's also true, and that also gives other benefits like army tradition. So I can't see a problem with that. But yeah, that sounds really cool as well. I played, like I said, I've got to this far, and then I paused for a while. I'm definitely extremely hyped to get started in actually exploring through the Umbral Covenant part of the mission tree. What kind of like extent are we talking about for, we've gotten to the end of the mission tree. How large are we expecting to be? And is there any without spoilers, of course, because I don't want the spoilers. I want to experience it. But is there any kind of like curveballs or any kind of like big set piece events things that we can expect to enjoy?
Yes, yeah, very muchly so. So the kind of direct conquest scope of the mission tree is pretty much all of Sahal and Bulwa. Obviously, you're going to be allied with Yazamora, so they're going to be eating some of that for you. But you can see that like from the mission tree. If you just scroll down to the bottom, it basically asks you for like every single corner of the continent. There is a very very fun mission to do with Favanosi. I'm going to get you the event ID for that actually, because I really really want to show it off. One
Sure.
of the saves games I'd sent you was like set up to complete that mission. So
Right.
it's the not just the past mission, where basically you're doing a horrible, horrible thing to the halflings. Give me
Fair.
1 second to find it.
And the event like mother like daughter happens. Mama, Auntie, Granny, they've all achieved incredible things, worked magic unique among any of the records you can find. Yet it occurs to me as I put in place my designs, have any of them done what I'm about to do on such a scale? Sounds
Yeah,
somewhat ominous. Let's
it's
see what
it's
that
very ominous.
fires.
If you fire that event, you'll see what happens.
So we get some, I'm sure, incredibly interesting flavor text, and then oh, oh, that's evil. I love it.
Yeah,
Lose a
so
1,000 base tax in the entire region and production and manpower, and you devastate it to 100%.
Yeah, so that's actually a paradox tooltip thing. So it's actually even worse than the tooltip is telling you, because that's not losing it in the region overall. It's actually doing that to every single individual province where you're losing 1,000 dev in it. The law being basically that you've just killed every single halfling in Favanosi, and obviously you get the empty modifier because it's empty. There's nobody left to resist you.
Does it also delete the locations, as in, like, as if you'd snapped at the start of the game?
No, no. So they're still there.
Okay.
I figured that was kind of your consolation prize for ruining them. You get to keep them, and they'll be very cheap to dev back up, and you can keep them as non-states. But yeah, there's more than that though. That's just kind of like a fun thing that happens. Obviously, if you consider halfling genocide to be fun, the
Yeah.
the actual end of the mission tree has two huge scripted wars. Um, I've had some people saying that the wars were pain, late game lag, really difficult to deal with, but just get a better computer. Um, the two final projects are basically involved there. You'll obviously see the end mission where you lose the
Yeah.
game.
I'm
Who
worried
who
about that one.
knows? Who knows if that's the final mission or not? Maybe there's hidden secrets. No spoilers. But yeah, so you'll conquer all of Sahel, all of Bulwa, and then you will fight a big war against a special somebody, and then you'll fight a lot more wars against the rest of the world. And in the very end of the game, you will have either conquered everything or everybody is your vassal. It will be very peaceful. I had somebody review the mission tree earlier, and they certified it as a wholesome post-racial democracy tree.
Wholesome, yes. Wholesome is exactly what I think. Definitely wholesome.
There's peace in the end.
Oh, I'm just gonna open the dev map mode and yep. Oh, that's
It's beautiful.
pouring out for the halflings. That's very wholesome. I guess those guys probably don't enjoy being your vassal though.
No, no, they do. I'm not going to spoil the story for you, but at the end of the tree, everybody is very happy to be your vassal. Um, if you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, which I'm sure everybody here has, you
Obviously.
know the scene of Galadriel where she gets offered the ring.
Mm.
That is the Var one at the end of the tree. Everybody will love her and despair.
I mean, you did make sure to point out multiple times in this interview how mass charm stopped being a war magic. So I feel like that's got something to do with
Perhaps there's
it.
a big enchantment project that happens. Who knows? I don't want to spoil the
Yeah,
story. You should
yeah.
experience it in the flow of things. It's very good.
I definitely will. I think that's a really good place to start wrapping it up as well because we don't want to spoil Umbral Covenant too much. So, like I've been teased, I've been excited, and I am definitely going to be playing it. Is there other things that you would like to talk about before we end here then?
So, obviously, I have many hats on my head. I have to shout out that Harpylen is coming. All my Harpy enjoyers, Harpylen will be PR'd soon, I promise you. But the big thing, obviously, is the giant Stormwall Kiamoa on the eastern part of the map. The next update, obviously, it is Insire. Insire is coming. It is going to release. I'm going to say it right now. There's going to be no mission trees on release. I'm very sorry. We didn't have the time. But it's going to be full of systems. Basically, every region has a bespoke system. If you like kobolds, and I know there's loads and loads of people that like kobolds, I don't know why, but they do. We've got loads of kobold tags. We've got more kobold tags than Canor, and they've got like fucking 4 unique systems. So go play them. It's going to be really fun. There's loads of shit to do. It's going to be fantastic. Obviously, if you've got any questions about Insire, feel free to ask me. I must admit, I've only been Insire lead for like 2.5 months, so probably can't answer the deep lore questions, but somebody had to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have been very excited for Insaya for quite some time. I remember doing an interview, got to be almost 2 years ago now, where I was told that there was going to be killer robots and kaiju. I hope that's still true because that sounds really cool. Um,
Well, if you're on the latest build, if you scroll into Insire, you should be able to see the kaiju.
Wait, like the on the map where?
Yep.
Oh my
If
goodness! I was not expecting to see things like this. Oh, very
Oh yeah,
nice.
so the model there is not actually what I meant. If you swap to observer mode,
Yes. Where should we be looking?
the massive 1 million rebel stacks. Now, obviously, we don't have models for them yet, but those are the Holohana. And yeah, if you're trying to be doing stuff in Insire, they're there to kill you, basically. They
Yeah.
have max level tech, so they have tech level 32 units. They have 15 morale. So basically, they're going to fuck you up. And that's what essentially keeps anybody from colonizing Insire until late game. But Inside is like designed to be a sort of treasure trove, if you like. We have
Wow.
this system called the Gene Pillars, where you're going to get like bespoke artifice inventions. Anybody who's familiar with artificery in Anbennar, obviously you get inventions. There's going to be a whole new tab called the Insire tab. It's going to have unique Insire only inventions. It's going to have tier 4 inventions. It's not in game yet, so we can't show it, but you've got to come to Insire to get those. So come to Insire, brave the Holohana, get our neat inventions.
I'm there's so many 1 million stacks. I very rarely see the M in EU4, and it's only very late game multiplayer wars, and here I've got more 1 millions on my screen than I think I've seen in EU4 in the entire time I've been playing, which is certainly impressive.
Well,
Uh,
there's a fun fact about the Hollow actually, in that we went through so many different iterations of the rebel size because initially we implemented them as 1 million stacks and discovered that they were making multiplayer unplayably laggy.
yeah.
Like
Okay.
you'd load multiplayer and it would just immediately not work because the game does like calculations about army movement for all players, things like that.
Yeah.
So we discovered this hidden tech where you can set the regiment size for rebels. So you see that there's only actually 50 regiments in
Yeah.
those Halahana stacks, but they still have 1 million men. So we've managed to have the best of both worlds.
I assume you've also given them extra morale, because otherwise
Yes,
I'm just going to try and make 50 guys disappear, to
they
run
they
away.
have 15 morale per stack.
That's a lot of morale. That's gonna be a rough one. I think yeah, no, I'm a little bit speechless on. I'm gonna try and colonize and conquer this at some point. Maybe even as the Umbral Covenant. But yeah, I think chat says it pretty well. That is so evil. I love it.
Evil
uh,
is the name of the game.
it is. It's certainly.
You can't spell evil without live.
That's. Oh, that is true. Definitely seems to be fitting for you then. Anyway, that is, yeah, Insider coming soon in the update. Is there a release date for the next release of Anbennar then, when we can
There
enjoy
is.
this?
It is the 24th of April. I don't know if we have a specific time, but that is when it is going to be launching. It's going to have Insia, it's going to have all the new mission trees, everything. I think I'm not lying when I say it's going to be our biggest update ever, which is, great because last update was our biggest update ever. So this is now our new biggest update ever. We have so much content coming through that an unnamed lead was basically having an aneurysm thinking about how much work they had to do to get all of it in. So shout out to them. Not going to name them, but yeah, we have a lot of content coming. EU4 is not dead; it's still alive.
Yeah.
Anbennar forever.
This continues to be the most impressive mod project I think I have ever seen, and I am beyond happy that I get to be that small little part of it in this interview and playing it and talking with the people involved in it. I think you have all done a phenomenal job. I could not agree more with the concept of Anbennar forever. Liv, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Really, thank you very much for coming to, show off your baby. Is there any final words you want to say before we end?
No, just thank you for having me. Thank you everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoy our update.
Perfect. Yeah, go and play some Anbennar. It's amazing, and you will not regret it. Thank you all very much for watching, and thank you again to Liv for joining me. Yeah, Anbennar forever.